May 15, 1955, 10:47 p.m. Louis "Steady" Jackson turned the key in the ignition of Bumpy Johnson's midnight blue 1955 Cadillac Eldorado. The engine roared to life. 8 cylinders, 270 horsepower, the sound every driver in Harlem recognized. Bumpy's car, Bumpy's power, Bumpy's presence. But tonight, beneath that familiar roar, Louis heard something else, something that made his blood run cold, a ticking sound. Faint, rhythmic, mechanical, coming from underneath the car. Louis had been Bumpy's driver for 12 years. He knew every sound that car made, every rattle, every hum, every vibration, and this ticking sound didn't belong. His hand moved to turn off the engine, but something stopped him. Because 40 feet away, inside Small's paradise, Bumpy Johnson was sitting at a table with 40 of Harlem's most important people. Numbers runners, policy bankers, community leaders, business owners. The entire infrastructure of Harlem's economy gathered in one room. And if what Louis suspected was true, if that ticking sound meant what he thought it meant, then everyone in that restaurant had about 90 seconds to live. Louis didn't turn off the engine. Instead, he slammed the car into gear and drove. Straight down 135th Street, away from Small's paradise, away from the 40 people inside, toward the Hudson River. Because Louis "Steady" Jackson understood something in that moment. The bomb under Bumpy's car wasn't meant to kill just Bumpy. It was meant to destroy everyone, and the only way to save them was to take the bomb as far away as possible before it detonated. What happened in the next 60 seconds didn't just save 40 lives. It exposed the most ambitious assassination plot in organized crime history and started a war that would reshape New York's underworld forever. To understand the significance of that moment, you need to understand what was happening in Harlem in May 1955. The Italian mob had been trying to take over Harlem's numbers racket for 20 years. Dutch Schultz had tried and died. Vito Genovese had tried and backed down. Individual families had made attempts and failed. But by 1955, the 5 families had a new strategy. If they couldn't take Harlem through negotiation or intimidation, they'd take it through elimination. Not just Bumpy Johnson. Everyone who made Harlem's economy work. Decapitate the entire organization in one strike. The plan was sophisticated. A meeting would be called. Bumpy would gather his entire network. Numbers, runners, bankers, enforcers, community leaders, all in one place. Small's Paradise, the most popular restaurant in Harlem. And while they were inside discussing business, a bomb would be planted under Bumpy's Cadillac. Parked directly in front of the restaurant, not a small bomb, a massive one. 50 pounds of dynamite wired to the car's ignition. When Bumpy came out, got in his car, turned the key, the explosion would be catastrophic. Powerful enough to destroy the car, the restaurant, and everyone within 100 feet. The Italian mob had used a specialist, Vincent, the chemist, Romano. Expert in explosives, former demolitions expert in World War II. He'd built bombs for the mob before, but nothing like this. This was a weapon designed for maximum casualties. Romano spent 3 days assembling it. 50 pounds of dynamite. Mercury switch trigger, timer backup system, 2 separate detonation methods to ensure it worked. The mercury switch would trigger if the car moved. The timer would detonate after 90 seconds, regardless. Foolproof, deadly, designed to kill everyone. May 15th, 1955, 8 p.m. Bumpy arrived at Small's Paradise for a scheduled meeting. His entire organization, 40 people. The most important gathering of Harlem's underground economy in years. They were discussing expansion, new territories, better police protection, community investment, the kind of meeting that happened maybe twice a year, maximum attendance, maximum importance, the perfect target. Bumpy arrived in his Cadillac, Louis driving, Bumpy in the back seat. The car pulled up directly in front of Small's Paradise. Bumpy got out, straightened his tie, walked inside. Louis stayed with the car. That was the routine. Louis always stayed with the car, guarding it, watching it, making sure nobody tampered with it. Except tonight, Louis had been sent on an errand. A phone call had come into Small's Paradise 30 minutes before Bumpy arrived. a message for Louis. His wife had been in a car accident, minor injuries, but she was asking for him at Harlem Hospital. Louis should go immediately. Louis had hesitated. He never left the car. Never. But the call was specific. His wife's name, the hospital, details that couldn't be faked, and Bumpy had told him to go. "Family comes first, Louis. Go check on your wife. I'll get someone else to watch the car." So Louis had gone, leaving Bumpy's Cadillac unattended for the first time in 12 years, for exactly 45 minutes, the amount of time Vincent Romano needed to crawl underneath and install the bomb. When Louis arrived at Harlem Hospital, there was no accident, no wife in the emergency room, just a confused receptionist who'd never heard of any car accident involving a Mrs. Jackson. Louis's stomach dropped. He'd been played, lured away. And if he'd been lured away, that meant something had happened to Bumpy's car. Louis ran back to Small's Paradise, arrived at 10:40 p.m. The meeting was still going on inside. Bumpy's Cadillac sat exactly where he'd left it, untouched, or apparently untouched. Louis circled the car slowly, looking for signs of tampering, scratches, disturbance, anything unusual, nothing obvious. But Louis had a bad feeling, a driver's instinct. Something was wrong. He got down on his hands and knees, looked under the car with a flashlight. And there it was, wedged against the undercarriage, a package wrapped in oilcloth, wires running to the ignition system, timer visible, ticking. Louis had seen bombs before, World War II. He'd served in the Pacific Demolitions Unit. He knew what he was looking at, and he knew he had maybe 2 minutes before that timer reached zero, maybe less. Louis could have run into Small's Paradise, warned everyone, evacuated the restaurant. But there were 40 people inside. Getting them all out in 2 minutes would be impossible. Panic would slow them down. And if the bomb had a motion sensor, if it was designed to detonate when the car moved, then evacuating wouldn't help. The explosion would happen anyway, 40 people standing on the street, still within the blast radius, still dead. Louis made a split-second decision. If the bomb was going to explode, it would explode away from people. He'd drive it away, take it as far as he could before it detonated, and if he died in the process, at least he'd save everyone else. 10:47 p.m. Louis got in the driver's seat, hands shaking, key in the ignition. He said a prayer, thought about his wife, his kids, wondered if this was the last thing he'd ever do. And he turned the key. The engine roared to life. Beneath that roar, the ticking sound, louder now, faster. The timer had been triggered. Louis slammed the car into gear, pressed the accelerator. The Cadillac shot forward, down 135th Street, heading west toward the Hudson River, 6 blocks away. If he could make it 6 blocks, the explosion would be far enough from Small's Paradise, far enough to save everyone. Louis drove like a man possessed, running red lights, ignoring stop signs, 70 miles per hour down residential streets, the ticking sound growing louder, faster, the timer counting down, 60 seconds, 50, 40. Louis's mind was calculating distance versus time. Could he make it to the river? Probably not, but he could make it far enough. Past the residential buildings, past the crowded blocks, into the industrial area near the docks, fewer people, fewer casualties. He pressed the accelerator harder, 80 miles per hour now. The Cadillac screaming through Harlem streets, 30 seconds. The ticking was almost continuous now, the timer nearly at zero. Louis saw the river ahead, 2 blocks, 1 block. He aimed the car toward an empty pier, abandoned warehouse district, nobody around. Perfect. He slammed the brakes, the car skidded. Louis threw open the door, jumped out, rolled across the pavement. The Cadillac, still moving forward from momentum, rolled onto the pier, toward the edge, toward the water, and then the world exploded. The blast was massive, 50 pounds of dynamite detonating in a confined space. The Cadillac disintegrated, metal shrapnel flying in every direction. The wooden pier collapsed. Flames shot 100 feet into the air. Windows shattered in buildings 3 blocks away. The shockwave knocked Louis flat even though he was 50 feet away, his ears ringing, debris raining down around him, smoke everywhere, fire everywhere. But no people, no casualties, just 1 destroyed car and 1 demolished pier. Louis lay on the ground, catching his breath, realizing he was alive. Somehow alive. He'd made it. He'd driven fast enough, far enough. The explosion that should have killed 41 people had killed no one. 6 blocks away, inside Small's Paradise, everyone heard the explosion, felt the shock wave. The windows rattled, glasses fell off tables, conversations stopped. Bumpy Johnson stood up immediately. He knew that sound. He'd heard explosions before. And based on the direction, based on the timing, he knew exactly what had just happened. "That was my car," Bumpy said quietly. Everyone in the restaurant went silent, and Lewis was supposed to be watching it. Bumpy walked outside, looked down 135th Street toward the river, smoke rising into the night sky, flames visible in the distance, fire trucks already responding. Bumpy's face was stone. Then his second-in-command, Raymond Lewis, came running from the direction of the explosion, out of breath, covered in dust. "Bumpy, it's Lewis. He drove your car to the river. There was a bomb. He saved everyone." Bumpy and his entire organization rushed to the scene, found Louis sitting on the ground, dazed but alive, the destroyed Cadillac smoking in the river, the demolished pier still burning. Bumpy helped Lewis to his feet. "You knew," Bumpy said. It wasn't a question. "I heard the ticking," Louis said. "When I started the engine, I knew what it meant, so I drove it away." "You could have died. Better me than 40 of us." Bumpy looked at the wreckage, then at Louis, then at his organization standing around them. "This wasn't random," Bumpy said. "This was coordinated. Someone lured Lewis away. Someone planted that bomb. Someone wanted all of us dead. And I know exactly who." The NYPD bomb squad arrived within an hour. They examined the wreckage, recovered enough of the bomb to analyze it. Professional construction, military-grade explosives, mercury switch trigger plus timer backup, designed to kill multiple people, not an amateur job. The detective in charge pulled Bumpy aside. "Mr. Johnson, this was an assassination attempt against you and everyone in that restaurant. Whoever built this knew what they were doing." "Can you trace the components?" Bumpy asked. "Possibly. The dynamite has markers. The detonator is military surplus. We might be able to track the seller." "Don't bother," Bumpy said. "I already know who did this. I just need proof." Bumpy called in every favor he had. Within 48 hours, he had his proof. A dock worker in Red Hook, Brooklyn, had seen Vincent the chemist Romano buying supplies at a military surplus store. A bartender in Queens had overheard Romano bragging about a big job in Harlem. An accountant who kept books for the Genovese family had noticed a large payment to Romano dated May 14th, the day before the bombing. And most damning, a police informant reported that the 5 families had held a secret meeting 2 weeks earlier. Topic: the Harlem problem. Solution: comprehensive elimination. Bumpy took this information to the FBI, not because he trusted them, but because a bombing that threatened to kill 40 civilians was too big for the NYPD to ignore. Federal jurisdiction, federal resources, and federal pressure on the 5 families. The FBI investigation was swift. Vincent Romano was arrested within a week, found with bomb-making materials in his apartment, charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and federal explosives violations. Romano tried to stay quiet. Omerta, mob code of silence. But the FBI had him cold. Physical evidence, witness testimony, financial records. He was looking at life in prison. Romano made a deal, testified against the Genovese family leadership who'd hired him, named names, revealed the entire plot, the fake phone call to lure Louis away, the bomb designed for maximum casualties, the plan to decapitate Harlem's organization in one strike. The conspiracy trial lasted 6 months. 3 Genovese capos were convicted, sentenced to 20 to 35 years each. The bombing plot became national news. Mafia attempts mass murder in Harlem. Public outrage was intense. Federal pressure on the 5 families increased. Robert Kennedy, then a young attorney working on organized crime cases, used the Harlem bombing as evidence that the mob was becoming too dangerous to tolerate. It became part of the justification for the massive federal crackdown on organized crime in the late 1950s. For Bumpy Johnson, the aftermath was strategic. He'd survived the most ambitious assassination attempt in mob history. Not through violence, through Louis's quick thinking and sacrifice. Bumpy made sure everyone knew the story, how his driver had heard the ticking, how he'd driven the bomb away from 40 innocent people, how one man's courage had saved an entire community. Louis "Steady" Jackson became a legend in Harlem. Bumpy promoted him from driver to security chief, gave him a salary raise, bought him a new house, made sure his family was taken care of for life. The five families never attempted another mass assassination in Harlem. The risk was too high, the federal scrutiny too intense, and Bumpy Johnson, having survived a 50-pound bomb, became truly untouchable. Not because people feared his violence, because they respected his intelligence and his luck. May 15, 1955. Louis Jackson started an engine with a bomb underneath it. The sound that followed, that faint ticking beneath the roar, saved 40 lives and changed the power dynamic between Harlem and the Italian mob forever. The lesson wasn't just about survival, it was about loyalty. Louis could have run, could have saved himself. Instead, he drove into danger to save others. That's the kind of loyalty money can't buy. That's the kind of courage that builds legends. And that's why, years later, when people asked Bumpy Johnson what his greatest weapon was, he didn't say guns or money or information. He said, loyalty. People willing to die for each other. That's what the mob can never buy. That's what they'll never understand. And that's why Harlem will always be ours. Louis Jackson lived another 40 years, died peacefully in 1995 at age 81. At his funeral, 3 generations of Harlem's community leaders showed up, because everyone remembered. The driver who heard the ticking, the man who drove the bomb away, the sound that saved 40 lives. If this story of loyalty, courage, and split-second decisions inspired you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you understand that real courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to save others despite it. Comment below. What would you have done in Louis' position? See you in the next story.